Today, Kenya is a multi-party democracy holding free and fair elections every 5 years. But Kenya hasn't always um, been a multi-party democracy. Um, and all the elections, starting before even their independence, have shown their transition into becoming a democracy. So starting in the 1900s, early 1900s, white settlers from Britain came and started taking over land in the territory which is now known as Kenya. After World War I, Kenya was Britain gained full control of Kenya under the Treaty of Versailles and started unfairly distributing land. This angered many Kenyans because they were angry that people were just coming in and taking over their land and then unfairly redistributing it out to people that it didn't belong to. So in 1946, Jomo Kenyatta became the leader of Kenya African Union, and basically he was the alleged leader of a Mau Mau uprising, which was part of Kenya's largest ethnic group that uprised in an attempt to regain their land. And basically they were angry with other issues such as poverty, lack of fair and political representation for Africans. So this uprising landed Kenyatta in prison for 7 years because Britain was trying to stop it and considered him to be the leader of it. So Britain called for a state of emergency, arresting Kenyatta, and they finally shut down the Mau Mau guerrilla war. And this Mau Mau uprising, many claim, have led to the independence of Kenya from Britain rule. Kenyatta was eventually released from prison and was elected to be the president. He was the leader of a political party called the Kenya African National Union. And basically, he became the president of the newly independent Kenya. But from the beginning of his presidency, many people claimed that Kenya was soon going to turn into a one-party state, which shortly after it did. Kenyatta's presidency, he had a strong central government and altered a lot of the constitutional amendments to increase his power. So he basically started to turn Kenya into a dictatorship after independence. The vice president at the time, his last name was Odinga. He started to find his socialist views really far-fetched from Kenyatta's more dictatorial or authoritarian views. So he was forced out of the Kenya party and started his own political party, the Kenya People's Union. Soon after, Kenyatta banned this opposition party and so he could give himself more power and ensure his re-election. So Kenya did turn into a official one-party state. So soon after, Kenyatta died, and the presidency was succeeded by the vice president, Daniel Arap Moi, and he led Kenya into a more obvious and dictatorship. During his presidency, the National Assembly officially declared Kenya a one-party state. Moi was very manipulative. He didn't let any other political parties come into power or even have a say. So during his presidency, he would weaken the opponent political parties, and but soon after, from the promotion from many outside countries, and including Kenya, Kenya was like pretty much encouraged to return to a multi-party democracy. So under Moi's rule, they returned into a multi-party democracy, or a multi-party state, but Moi was still pretty much in control. He did things like monitor elections and stuff and voting, and to make sure people felt pressure to vote for his specific party. So now that there was multi-party and there was free elections, people could vote, but Moi still was very manipulative in trying to suppress other parties. So in 1992, the general elections were the first multi-party elections since independence, and this new return of multi-party politics also brought new hope for women. So for the first time in Kenya's history, a total of 6 women out of 210 members were elected to government positions. Also, so women now were given much more say in elections, but the 2002 and 2007 elections showed to be very showed to have a lot of ethical issues. There's always been a lot of ethical tensions within Kenya, which has been a major setback into becoming a democracy. But in 2007, there were very, very violent elections because there was claimed to be election rigging and stuff. But finally, in 2010, there was a new constitution introduced, which provided for a really clear transition into democracy. So the new constitution established a culture of responsibility and includes democracy and people's participation, the rule of law, inclusiveness, social justice, human rights, and non-discrimination. So the new constitution reduced presidential powers and created a new structure of government, providing for a decentralized system of government where people could effectively participate. So this new constitution is a very promising start for Kenya's new transition into a full democracy. In 2013, elections were held where there was no alleged violence, and the electoral process was deemed by many international observers as free, fair, and credible. So Kenya has had a very long transition into democracy, but they're finally seeing a significant and successful strides towards becoming a full democratic country.